The stock market continues to bounce here on the day as we enter a short week of trading with Thanksgiving. However, we're still getting some headline news. And like we talked about in yesterday's video, as of right now, fundamentally speaking in the market, nothing has changed. You're seeing this decline, but we also came into a massive support on SPY, the S&P 500, and ultimately buyers are responding like we assumed they would. So it's important to understand where we're at and ultimately where we're going. We're going to be jumping into exactly what's happening here on the day with the likelihood of a Fed rate cut, what's happening with Trump and China, and ultimately everything in between. We'll do a little quick of a recap of why we were buying dips, why we talked about this yesterday, and ultimately how that moves us into today, and ultimately how this viewpoint has been confirmed out as we've entered today as well. So we have a lot to cover, so let's get into it. Now, the first thing I do want to say is a little recap of what we talked about yesterday, specifically on SPY. If you zoom out here and you look at the daily, again, quick looks, bring up the drawing so you can see, you've bounced to this level quite a few times, around 655 to 652. So like I said, not a real surprise of where we're finding that buying. Another thing, like we mentioned, is as we go into what's happening overall with valuations, and this is a big metric, this basically goes into the Mag 7 and ultimately how they've done each quarter from basically 2020 to where we are now. And as you can see, we are just upticking. Now, every once in a while, one company will outperform the other and we'll see some spikes, but overall, we're seeing the continued growth with most of the major players. What we're talking about, I mean, I think Tesla is like the one that's the least interesting of these names, but still worth mentioning. I think Apple really has nothing on the line as far as like an AI bubble right now, so worth mentioning. But when we look at the other names like Amazon, Microsoft, Meta, NVIDIA, the growth has been phenomenal. So again, that's really where we're at and kind of how we're moving. And then when you go back into something like the ETF of XLK, which is tech, you're bouncing very aggressively. SMH semiconductors, you're bouncing very aggressively as well, back into that key range, which is ultimately where we started leaning towards the downside. So again, the mental viewpoint of what's happening and what's going on there. Now, I also do want to give a special shout out. And again, we don't ever really do sales at all for Discord. So if you are interested, again, this is going to be the opportunity if you want. Again, on the website right now, everything is currently 60% off. So again, this will most likely change going to tomorrow from 60% to 55 or 50%. And I think we have one lifetime member left. So if you want to join, this is your time. We do not offer lifetime any other time throughout the year. So again, this is your opportunity. Again, pretty big sales going on. Check it out while you can, again, for you. Now, going back into the market of what we're looking at, a few things fundamentally that have gone on today. So like we talked about yesterday, one of the big things that we wanted to see is obviously the likelihood of a rate cut or rising back up. We saw the sharp decline, as you can see here, the 25 BP. So you dropped right here from basically around 60, 80% all the way down to 20, and now you're bouncing back up. Well, on the day, it's even gotten better because the market is pricing in almost a 75 to 80% chance as we speak right now. And again, you had Fed Waller come out and say, my concern is mainly the labor market in terms of the dual mandate. I'm advocating for a rate cut at the next meeting. Waller said on Monday as a Fed on Fox, you may see more of a meeting by meeting approach once you get into January, which will be key. But like we said, Powell will be out of here going into mid-year next year. So that's also key to know. Also, what's happening with China and the United States, basically everything that's going on is really to do with Taiwan right now. Again, Taiwan's return to China is a key part of the post-war international order, states and news from whatever the hell that is. Again, China and the United States have once fought side by side against fascism and militarism, and so now we should work together to safeguard the outcomes of World War II. So important to understand that. Trump said that about Xi, and again, they will be meeting rather soon as well. That's also booked. So that's where we are as a whole. So right now, you're definitely seeing a few things. You're seeing buying, you're seeing buyers step back into the market, and you're not really seeing action from sellers. But I do want to be very clear, where do things get really bullish on the market? Where do you start flipping that script and like, okay, we're in the clear, things look really amazing. Now, I want to just tell you what I'm doing as of right now. I'm currently buying most of the stocks that I've been talking about here on the channel. I've talked about them in Discord. I've talked about in Discord too, like which ones I'm buying more of. So I'll let you know. And again, you can go watch all those videos. I recommend subscribing to the channel. Again, I think the stats here, 50% of the people to 60% of the people that watch the videos are not subscribed. So I do appreciate it, helps out a lot. I try to get around 2 videos a day during the week out so you guys can see. I don't gatekeep with paid content, but again, like if you want to ask us questions, get exact things that we're buying for like stock wise or leaps, then yeah, you're going to have to, join Discord. It is for you if that's what you want to do. But again, you can see all these videos, the ones that 3 stocks to buy, 5 stocks to buy, NVIDIA earnings, buying these stocks, etc. I've been very clear with what I like, why I like it. And again, everything on this channel really builds on each other. So again, if you want to get more information on what the bubble is going, what's happening with the bubble, what's happening with Oracle, what's happening with all these companies, again, every video I post here builds on each other. So hopefully it helps you out. Now, going into the market where you flip that script of getting really bullish. And like I said, right now, I think this is a time where I'm just buying stuff. I'm not really looking for for a crap ton of day trades. The only thing I traded on the day was Amazon back towards like 227. But once SPY can get back above 674, QQQ gets back above roughly 614, 613, I think you're in the clear, and I think you look very strong back to the upside. That's on the side of not even looking at futures. Now, when we go to futures, again, there's a lot of levels here. So again, I'm tracking this all the time. But where you want to get on futures on the NASDAQ is back above 25.4. That's when I'm like, this is just incredibly, incredibly bullish. And I'm looking at buying, the buy side potentially more than anything else, right? Again, looking at something like ES, you can see that as well. Getting back above 68.12 is a massive level there as well. So back above that's where you're looking to go. But again, you can also watch SPY and QQQ. Those levels are pretty much on point as well. Now, going, like I said, back into something like SMH of what's happening here, it's important to understand where we're finding the buying pressure. Because again, like we saw, we got below this range, rejected, and it wasn't looking good. But now we're back in here and we look good back towards 348, which is almost a $10 move on semiconductors. Now, it's worth mentioning, NVIDIA is not the name getting all the buying. NVIDIA is still below 184, so I think buying is a little bit, I don't want to say it's risky, but you get like smooth selling above 184. But what you are seeing is the other semis perform amazing. And look at AVGO. Here on the day, AVGO is up $34, just climbing towards all-time highs. AMD, for instance, is up around $12. Again, you had that really nice dip on Friday, bouncing back up above 214. It looks nice. Again, above 227 is where you get pretty aggressive on the long side there as well. You can go a little bit further. Names like TSM moving up as well, $9 on the day. ASML, a few of these others performing pretty good also. And names like ASML really didn't even dip. Micron, et cetera, they're all performing, like the sector as a whole is performing very, very solid. NVIDIA is more of like, again, you're just kind of waiting around, and I think it's a great name. I think leaps make a lot of sense. We've been buying leaps as well. In Discord, Jay's been very clear about that. So again, we're talking a lot there. Now shifting towards XLK and tech. Again, I still think this has a lot of room to the upside as well. It's worth mentioning Apple's trying to break out, but it's not there yet. Someone in Discord was talking about going long here. And it's like, you're going long at resistance. You're playing a dangerous game. Do what you want to do. It's not really for me. But again, it does look solid, looks really good. But again, it makes more sense to go long near 266, 265 than going long at 276, just for me personally. But yeah, if you want to go long, do what you got to do. Again, a little bit further into something like Microsoft. We talked a lot about this. We mentioned this on Twitter as well, which again, I recommend following on Twitter so you get all those updates. It's absolutely free for you. I post all the charts, everything like that right now. You're seeing a lot of the Black Friday stuff, but again, after today, this week it'll be gone. So again, it's primarily just charts on there. As you can see, Microsoft just retested your previous all-time high again from 2024. Perfect test there. And this is what we were looking for. We called this out on Twitter, the double top breakdown to 470. And again, it does look pretty solid right now as you're holding 468 and pushing back up, room towards 492. But honestly, I think this thing gets back towards all-time highs. I think Microsoft's in a really good area, and I think they're doing phenomenal. So definitely happy with what we're seeing there as well. Tesla is another big player here for upside movement as well, getting back above 414. I've been very clear about Tesla. Tesla above 414 is very, very bullish for me. I don't know how to be more clear on that. Tesla does look strong. As long as you hold this, you're looking back for 425. Back above 425, you get really bullish towards 440, 439. So definitely a fan of what's going on here as well. Going to a name like Amazon, holding the 200 daily moving average, as you can see down here from Friday, but ultimately bouncing back above 224, our next key level. You hold that, you're looking above the 50-day moving average towards 233, ultimately back towards 242. 242.7, your previous all-time high there as well, and you get back into all-time high range there, which is also pretty damn impressive. And like I mentioned, when you're looking at what these names are doing, it's important to understand the money side of this. Again, people like to talk about the bubble, the giant crash, all the concerns, and if you want to learn more about the bubble, my fears, etc., things along those lines, I recommend going and watching this video right here, the Michael Burry video. It's one of the least viewed videos, which is hilarious. But again, typically when stuff gets around education and actually making you smarter and understand what's going on, people don't really like that, like more of the spoon feeding aspect. Do what you want to do, but this breaks down where I think the bubble is and what's really at risk. So that makes it really, really clear. So again, worth mentioning. But like I said, when we go into this, as long as these companies continue to print and they're doing really good on earnings and growth continues to surge, again, I don't think there's a major reason to be concerned. Again, think about 2022 when we started seeing that really dramatic dip. Yes, we saw rate rate hikes starting to happen, but we saw outlook starting to change as well from earnings. So it wasn't like, it was just like, okay, guys, you're timing the top right now, and things just went straight down. You know, you started to top out, and then earnings started to guide as well with the overall risk offsetting that was taking place from the Fed. So it's important to understand that. Now, I'm not telling you to YOLO, and again, next earnings could be ugly, who knows? But this is worth mentioning where we're at. Nvidia guided up, most of these companies guided up, and they're still spending a crazy amount of money. And so if you think this is a bubble, then I think as of right now, the bubble is still going because all the wheels are still turning in the same direction. What do I mean by that? Companies like Meta, Microsoft, Amazon are spending more money than ever on data centers. The data center companies that are still showing extreme growth should keep showing extreme growth because Amazon and Meta are spending more money than ever there. Nvidia is going to be selling more chips to said data centers in the short term as well. So the short term mentality for me still has to be on that upside look for myself personally. Now, again, where could things get ugly? I like to make this always as clear as possible, is if we start breaking back down below like 652, which we haven't really held below yet there on SPY, you can see how big of a level this is. So really important that we're understanding where we're at and how we're moving, and we're going into this with an unbiased viewpoint as far as the day trading aspect. But when it comes to like more the swing trading, I think it's just pure opportunity out there in the streets as far as right now. And showing you some of the viewpoints of the cheaper names that I've mentioned here on the channel, and I'll probably have a video coming out tomorrow or today on some of these names, but just giving you a quick look. You know, a name like Nebius still holding up above the 87 level. You did get that dip down to 75, which is awesome, but I still think Nebius is a great play. Tempest AI, from where we entered it on Discord, was around $66 to 200 SMA. It literally hasn't dipped back down. So again, moving towards $78, $80. That's going to be almost give or take 20 to 25% just there on stock. Again, something like HIMS finding support at $35, bouncing up as well. Love to see it. One of the bigger names we mentioned was Oscar, $13 to $13.50 is where we said to buy. That's where we talked about the opportunity. Again, I mentioned all these stocks and all these videos. So again, I want to make this really clear. I throw them all in there. I'm not like gatekeeping any of these. I mentioned them in Discord, but I also mentioned them on YouTube as well. So again, you're already at $17, $16. So again, your stock would have been up over 30% just there, which is what you love to see just from like a quick move there as well. So the companies that we like are still doing really good. You know, Rocket Mortgage is another name we mentioned near the 200 SMA, 15, 16 bucks back into 17, $18. We could see this down to 14, but again, you're just still finding buyers. SoFi came to our buy zone again at 24.75 to $25. You're back at 27. So again, even the cheap names that we like are doing really, really well. So again, worth mentioning, worth watching. And this all just comes with the viewpoint of having a trade plan and knowing why you're executing, why you're getting into a trade, and where you're targeting. You know, one of the biggest questions I see here is people like, well, I don't really know when to sell this or that. Well, it's like the same reason why I know where to buy. So like looking at SoFi for an example, if I'm just trading SoFi level to level, then I'm just aiming to buy at support and sell at resistance, the 50 MA pushing above there. Could you go higher? Yes, but it's just having that trade plan. You can't let those emotions get connected to it as well. Of like, oh, I could have made more money. I could have done this, could have done that. It's really the mentality that goes into it as well. So that's just how my brain works, how I'm looking at this, and ultimately how I'm investing here. Again, I'm a big fan right now. One name that I will mention that I keep telling you guys I think is pretty undervalued when we look at what's happening right now. I'm giving you a viewpoint too, going back to this chart. I'm going to continue doing this. But again, zooming out just a second so you guys can see as well. Where is it at? I want to make this really clear. I made a whole video on this, so you can go check it out too. I think it was this video right here too, the top 3 stocks back here. So you can go rewatch that. And really it's 3 sectors. But again, as you go into Meta, one of the biggest reasons is when you look at their company right now, they're operating at a 19 forward-looking PE ratio, which is so low. Like for a Mag 7 name, that is one of the, that's as probably low as it's going to get. So it's pretty insane of where you're at and how you're moving. Now, I do think this is like a perfect storm of what happened from last earnings. But again, like I said, you're getting back above 605. You're making some higher highs here. You're trying to break this downtrend that you were operating in. This is what you like to see. I think even conservatively, this could get back to the 200 SMA pretty easily, but you saw that gap all the way back into 745. You know, do what you want to do as far as, I think leaps are pretty nice. They're expensive, so understand the risk there. But this is still what you really like to see in the market as far as opportunity is concerned and where you're at. And you're starting to see some of the confirmation on these trades as well for signals to about going long also. So again, what we really, really like to see, you know, getting back above like 610, 613. It's like the equivalent for me on Nvidia getting back above 184. So again, most of the setups that we're looking at, you know, stocks we mentioned, VRT bouncing here in the day, looking pretty damn strong. GEV, one of the energy names we mentioned yesterday or the day before, again, sitting at like up $25 here on the day at high. So again, just cruising, and this is what we really want to see. And again, like I said, we're not out of the trenches yet. We're not confirmation of a breakout yet. I want to make that clear. You got to get above 613 on QQQ, and then on SPY you got to get above 674. That's where you get really interesting. That's where buyers start to take control, and I think things could get really, really crazy. It's also worth mentioning there are people going short on this stuff too, which I think is a really dumb move, because again, you need to understand, you don't win prizes for shorting the top. You don't win prizes for going long at the bottom. You only win a prize when you execute a trade where you make money. So again, I think people get in this idea of, I got to time the bottom, got to time the top. It's not really what it's about, in my opinion. It's about finding an opportunity, take advantage of the opportunity, ultimately whatever the market is giving us in that session and in that day. Have a good one, trader. See you in the next video.